peloton sure has whittled down quite a bit from when we started. There were just under 100 riders when we first started, and I don't know how many are there now, but it's definitely not 100 anymore, and that speaks to how hard this race has been.
All right, the riders just rolling over the cobbles at Monument Park, and that's where we find Rasan Bahati. Rasan.
We're here at the top of the hill, Mount Vernon. We have the fantastic monument here. Two riders are off the front right now. Rider 55 had been off the front solo by herself for a while. Then she got a partner, and the peloton is only about 20 to 25 seconds behind. Now, this hill is not that strenuous, but it is a tight run-in. There's a chicane at the bottom of this hill before they come up the Mount Vernon hill here, and we should be seeing them momentarily. And as I say that, the main peloton, which is about 25 seconds behind, is now starting to work their way up the Mount Vernon climb. And here they are right here. We have Canyon SRAM on the front, followed by EF, followed by Siniska, and the rest of the peloton, which is still a pretty significant pack right now. Not dwindled down that much, and they have one more time around that they'll be coming up this Mount Vernon hill. Back to you guys in studio, Steve.
Yeah, that was just a short time ago when they rolled through. He had the perfect front row seat to watch these two lead the way. Their gap half a minute, Christie and Hengeveld, and Danique Hengeveld pacing the EF rider at the moment here on this third of the 4 laps. We're under 30 miles left to go. Second half of the race, still 2 more climbs for the Queen of the Mountain competition. And then, of course, we will have 2 more sprint points. And remember, you have Christie, who, by virtue of the fact that she was out front by herself at the end of the previous lap, is leading the intermediate sprint competition as well. So she's leading the sprint competition, the Queen of the Mountains, and up here leading the race as well with Danique Hengeveld.
You can see them looking at each other when they're starting to feel like, okay, I've done my job pulling enough. Like, hey, are you going to come through and help? And typically, if another rider's not putting any pressure on you to pull through and help at this point, you don't. Like, you want to work together, but you also, it's a fine balance, because you also don't want to spend too much energy. You want to be spending less energy than the rider who you're with. So they'll do a strong pull to help keep the momentum of their duo up, and then look over their shoulder or under their arm and be like, hey, are you going to come in and help a little bit here? So that's what's going on here. But they're working together very well.
It can also get kind of dicey when you think of the tactics, because some riders, if they have specific team orders for something that they need to do for their teammates behind them, if they're harboring ambitions for the rest of their team that's back in the peloton, sometimes they won't pull at all. It really kind of depends on what the tactics are and what their team is hoping to get out of the race.
Yep, team strategy, that always takes precedent, even if you have the chance to do something exciting or that you feel like doing to shine in the race as an individual. Too bad. It's definitely a team sport.
This is Harbor East, adjacent to Harbor Point, and part of the revitalization of the city of Baltimore. This is where we started the race earlier today, very close to where the race will finish. And the harbor is simply spectacular on this bright, sunny, early September Saturday. It is a gorgeous setting now, and this is at the Inner Harbor, the Coast Guard cutter that's on display, part of several ships that are in the harbor. You have Civil War era vessels, you have a submarine that did over 10,000 dives for the U.S. Navy, all part of these tours you can go on. You have the National Aquarium, which is right next door, and you can come down, get a ticket, tour all of the boats, see the aquarium. I mean, this is just a gorgeous setting here, right around the harbor and the Patapsco River that funnels into the harbor here in central Baltimore.
Baltimore is such a cool place. I actually toured one of those ships yesterday from this Coast Guard here from 1936, and most of the fittings there are original. So there was some pretty funky stuff on that Coast Guard.
What was the funkiest thing you saw?
The funkiest thing was actually boxes of cookies from the 1960s that were still left on board.
From the 60s?
Yeah, and packs of gum and
cookies.
Deodorant. Yeah, I'm not kidding you.
Were they Oreo double stuffed?
I don't even know what the cookies were. I didn't recognize them.
You didn't take a bite, did you?
No, I didn't. That's why I'm still here today.
All right, so this is Harbor East, looking back towards the Inner Harbor over to the left. And what a terrific epicenter this is for this race. For the men, it'll be the 3rd edition, and this is the first ever women's event. And this is an event that has persevered, unlike so many others in U.S. cycling over the years. It had to be canceled 2 different times because of COVID and the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge a year ago, but it is back and better than ever here in 2025.
Yeah, hats off to the organizers and to the city of Baltimore for making this happen. You know, USA has always been the place in North America where the majority of top races have been, and it's had an excellent calendar, and that's what has created such a place where strong teams and riders can develop to perform on the international scene. So events like the Maryland Cycling Classic joining and staying on the calendar are a huge deal for cycling.
And this might be the biggest sports weekend all year in the city of Baltimore. Not only do you have this race, which is the largest one-day professional bike race in the country, you have the Baltimore Ravens kicking off their NFL season tomorrow night against Josh Allen and the Bills in Buffalo. And the Dodgers are in town taking on the Baltimore Orioles, who walked them off last night at Camden Yards, which is just about a half a mile west of this Inner Harbor. And now tonight you have at the Orioles-Dodgers game the 30th anniversary celebration of Cal Ripken becoming baseball's Iron Man, passing Lou Gehrig for most consecutive games played. So top that for a sports weekend. It's all here this weekend in Baltimore, Maryland.
We're lucky to be here, and it sure is cool that cycling is a part of this sports weekend.
The Maryland Cycling Classic, and these are people here gathering at the finish, where in years past they've had some 20,000 lining the barricades, and they'll be here later on for the women's finish and then the men's race. It is a full day of racing. The women kicking off at 8:30 a.m. local time. The men will finish past 4:30 p.m. this afternoon.
Yeah, the women had to get up early to start their race, but the advantage of that is that they get the best weather. I hear that there might be some rain showers in the afternoon that the men are going to have to navigate, but the women are having bright, sunny skies. Maybe, well, a little overcast now, but nice and warm and no rain at all.
Okay, so the 2 leaders, Henry Christie and Danique Hengeveld, are on Falls Road, which is a very popular and distinguished road here in the city of Baltimore, and on their way to the Queen of the Mountains climb, and could be a decisive climb coming up for Christie, who could lock up that competition if she hangs on and gets there. 3rd time up the climb today.
Henrietta Christie and Danique Hengeveld still off the front as they approach the QOM line. So Henrietta Christie, if she scores full QOM points, she's going to have the Queen of the Mountains jersey in the bag. So we'll see if Danique Hengeveld lets her go for it. I wouldn't be surprised if she does. The only reason Danique would have to try to scoop up the full points would be if she had a teammate who was also going for the jersey, or if she herself was going for the jersey. But if I was in her position, I would probably let Henrietta go for it so that I could save some extra energy. It does cost a lot to do that little effort and the sprint to get a jump and make sure that you're the first over the line.
And if Hengeveld would go for it, what's the point? If you're not in the competition yourself, if your teammates aren't in it behind you, then there's really no serious motivation, and it's more bad will you kind of impart on the rider you're competing against if you're just doing it to in some way maybe be selfish or to prevent them from winning it. So build up a little capital in terms of the goodwill and the sportsmanship, and for Christie, I'm sure she's going to be going for it nonetheless. And what a chance for her, because again, she could lock it up with one more climb left to go, and that's more stress off her plate for later on in the race. And it's 4 points if you're first over the climb, and she's been first each of the last 2 times so far here today.
Absolutely. And it feels so good to already have a win in the bank before the finish of the race actually even happens. So if she is able to get those points and secure the jersey on this time across the Queen of the Mountains line, that's going to be a really good feeling for her.
All right, so 20 seconds is the lead. Christy and Hengeveld with just over 25 miles left to go.
Danique Hengeveld and Henrietta Christie still have a solid gap in front of the peloton, and they're going uphill right now. So the peloton doesn't have an advantage over them in terms of draft and aerodynamics. They have to put out pretty much the same amount of power right now.
Well, this is out on the roads around Baltimore, but back near the finish area, you have the merch tent and just about anything you would want. Team jerseys, T-shirts, hats, cowbells, water bottles. You can find it all. The merch is on display here near the finish area, part of the fan zones that they have lined up. Yeah, get that size right. What do you think? Maybe large for our boy?
Yeah, I'd say large. Looks like he likes a loose fit.
But if it shrinks, you might go extra large. I don't know. I mean, it's a tough choice. The fitting rooms are around the corner, sir.
The event did have a really good sponsor, apparel sponsor, I should say. So I think that these shirts are probably pre-shrunk. They're not going to give any surprises once they go through the dryer.
Pretty cool stuff. I mean, this is a one-day race. It only comes around once a year, so to get the latest merch, always a fine piece of cloth to hang in the closets. All right, so they are on the climb. Big moment for the rider in pink there, Henrietta Christie. This climb again averaging 7%. There's a section of 8%. It's half a mile long. Christie leading the Queen of the Mountains competition. She's been in the points each time, and if she gets maximum points here, she will win Queen of the Mountains for the day. It is 4 points to be first across, 2 points for second, and then 1 point for third.
So they're essentially pacing each other up the climb right now. Danique's not getting that much of an advantage to be sitting on Henrietta's wheel, but she does know that Henrietta's going to be riding and putting out enough power to maintain a decent pace so that she can go for those points. Oh, it looks like they're going to swap off anyways right now. Take some turns. Essentially right now they're like virtual teammates. They both have the same interests in staying away from the peloton in mind, so they're working together really well.
So they're calling it 30 seconds. You can see the field in the background there.
Yeah, that's what happens on a hill. They're going much slower than they would be on the flats, so it could be an actual true 30 seconds, but maybe it's a little less now. Maybe it's getting closed up.
So Lex, would this be a scenario where Christie and Hengeveld would have actually talked about this, where Hengeveld would have said, hey, I'm going to let you have Queen of the Mountains, or where Christie might have asked if she could have it? Do they discuss it, or is it just silence between the two?
I mean, sometimes that could be discussed if this was a situation that was like super important to Henrietta, then they would discuss it, but they probably just know. Like, it goes pretty much without saying that Danique knows that Henrietta is going for it.
Sometimes your hand is forced. You don't have a choice because the field is coming up behind you. Christie is going to go, and Henrietta Christie is going to win the Queen of the Mountains competition here in the first ever edition of the Maryland Cycling Classic for the women's field.
There we go. So there are still Queen of the Mountains points up for grabs on the next lap, but she has accumulated so many points that the remaining ones aren't enough for anybody to pass her in the competition. So she has a Queen of the Mountains jersey in the bag, and it's essentially a first victory for Team Education First Oatly before the finish even happens.
She has 12 points now total in the Queen of the Mountains competition. No matter what happens the final time up the climb on the last lap, she cannot be caught in that category.
So now let's see who's going to go for the sprint points, because she also has full sprint points because she was off the front of the pack as they crossed the start-finish line earlier on. So let's see if somebody else is going to go for those points. I can't imagine that she's going to try to get both jerseys.
It's going to be a furious sprint at the end of the race if there's a large group together, and that assumes that a smaller group doesn't get out ahead of that group, so a lot can change here. But to have one jersey already in the bag. That's a huge victory for the EF squad and Henrietta Christie, and it's also a matter of how much gas she has left in the tank. With this brief spell, we're hanging with her. She's been largely on her own. She attacked on her own. She led solo for a long time. Hengeveld bridged up. She was with her for a while, and now Christie is back out in front by herself, and we'll see how long this lasts now. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be long. The gap down to 10 seconds.
It's interesting to see that she's still out there. She's probably waiting to see if somebody jumps across. I mean,
yeah, I think at this point she's just waiting either to be caught or somebody to come across. It looks like the field is just about closing in.
She's also wondering what to do or receiving some instructions. You can see her pressing the button on her microphone of the race radio. So in her other ear, in her right ear, she's got an earpiece in where she can hear the driver of the car that's following and giving her race instructions. And then she's got a little microphone that's tucked inside of her jersey that she activates by pressing a button. So I wonder what she's saying to the team director back in the caravan.
What would you think it would be?
The team director's probably asking her how she's feeling and maybe giving her the option to stay out front. It doesn't look like she's totally slowing up to let the pack come back to her. And it does look like somebody way back there is trying to bridge. We'll see what happens. Oh. Yeah, she's looking back, so she knows that they're working hard to close the gap. There she goes talking to the director again.
So again, this is the third of 4 laps. It is largely downhill all the way back to the end of the lap in the inner harbor of Baltimore.
It's tough to maintain a gap over a peloton or a group on a descent just because of the advantage they have as a bunch. A bunch of riders will go much faster downhill than a single individual rider. So there, she's going to get absorbed back into the peloton. Now her job is just going to be to get in, be a part of the draft, and save as much energy as possible so that she can be an asset to her teammates if possible at the very end.
All right, so now other riders and teams are looking around, and the question is, who's going to go? Who might launch an attack? Who is going to set the pace at the front of the field?
So we still have Canyon SRAM right on the very front, setting the pace, even though the selection is all together now. We see another Education First rider, Allison Jackson, the national champion, talking on her race radio, probably getting some instructions and feedback from the team car.
So you're at the point of the race, over halfway through it, third of 4 laps, where any one move has the potential to be the key decisive move of the day. So you want to be attentive to other riders who may launch that move, but at the same time, if you're one of those riders thinking about making the move, you have to also pick your spots wisely, decide where you want to attack, because you may only get one bite at the apple. That attack may not work, you may use too much energy, and that may be the end of your race. So you have to be very selective and choosy if you're going to make that key move.
Yeah, it's a fine art. It's a fine art to timing attacks and moves, and you don't want to wait for too long because you only have so much time in the race to make those moves, but you also don't want to make them too early, spend too much energy. And sometimes you don't even have the choice. If other teams are acting and attacking before you do, then you're just stuck following and going along with their strategy.
It'd be hard to attack somewhere like here, where you're on a downhill, everybody's at pace. It would be hard to get away. If you're thinking ahead towards that final lap and even the end of this current lap, where would you want to make the move?
You want to make the move probably when people are suffering. And it's a tough spot where people are going hard. If you're feeling pain in your legs, if it's tough to breathe, then it's tough for everybody else too, and that's the time to make it even tougher. People will second guess themselves. It's like has a psychological effect just as much as it has a physiological or physical effect when you attack in those moments. So that's a good spot on the uphills, or also in technical areas where it's difficult to keep speed through tight corners or through the cobbles, for example. So if you have a lot of confidence in your bike handling skills, attacking just before a technical section is a brilliant idea.
All right, closing in on the final 20 miles and the end of the third lap here at the women's edition of the Maryland Cycling Classic. Well, everyone largely together here so far today through these first 3 laps. We've had some solo moves. We've had a group of 2 riders, a brief group of 3 earlier in the day. No large breakaway forming in this race. Surprised at all that a big group didn't go up the road at some point and at least get a minute or 2?
I'm not super surprised, but what we're seeing here is essentially like a race selection here. So the peloton has dwindled down quite a little bit, and that's from the effect of the breaks that did go away being chased down. That requires a lot of energy, and the chase groups and the peloton were having to go at pretty high speeds to reel in the riders that went off the front. So even though they didn't stay away, those breakaways really did accomplish something by whittling down the field and tiring out some key players in the race.
How much of a difference does having this race at this particular point in the season make? It's obviously at the tail end. You're starting to get into the fall. Fatigue has built up. How about this place on the calendar and how it affects the impact of the riders?
Yeah, it's one of the last races of the season, so anybody who doesn't necessarily have a contract for next year, or people who are looking to get a better contract, are definitely looking to show their colors. It's essentially like one of the last chances. World Championships is still coming up in a couple of weeks in Rwanda, but not all of these riders will be going because the selections are pretty strict and limited. Countries only earn a certain number of spots. So this is one of the last chances for these riders to show their stuff and make a mark and catch the attention of teams that might sign them for next year.
Pretty steady, but measured pace in the group right now. And after 50 miles of what is a 72-mile race overall.
Yeah, we see some riders with holding up bottles in the air. They're looking to get some feeds from their car.
This is where the riders are right now, heading back down south towards the start of what will be the final lap. Heading north on the outbound portion of the course and then back south after the Queen of the Mountains climb.
And this time across the finish line, riders will be going for sprint points again, and there's no breakaway right now, so the points aren't going to be scooped up by somebody off the front. So let's see how this group reacts to the line coming up and see what they do. Who wants these sprint points?
The sprint competition is somewhat tricky because for these last few times, you're going to have the field maybe going through together, and then at the very last time, it'll be the sprint for the victory in the race itself. So it's not so much about focusing on the sprint competition. That in some ways can just be folded into the overall tactics of winning the race.
Yep, you're right about that. And every time you go for sprints, you're spending a lot of matches, and no matter how strong you are, going for a sprint, it's going to cost you energy, and that's going to be energy that you're not going to have at the very end for the finish. And
so it might be a case where you really can't isolate the sprint competition the way they could for the Queen of the Mountains and go for that specifically. It might just be a bonus as a part of trying to win the race itself.
Yeah, you're right. I'd be surprised if there was a team that's prioritizing going for the sprint points, especially at this point when full points were already scooped up by Henrietta, who probably won't be going for it. We see Canyon SRAM right at the front of the pack right now. Sarah Tizet is close up there as well. And then we have a few EF Education riders towards the front too. So they know that this is an important race or point in the race, and they're ready to control or react.
Riders bringing bottles for other riders, and this is also something you look at going into the final lap as well. Your last opportunities for bottles, for food to be topped up. and to get that opportunity to eat and drink before the race really picks up in its intensity. And then you don't have the opportunity, because if you don't fuel at the right time, you bonk later, and then you're really in trouble.
Yep. They might not be feeling like they really need to take in a lot of nutrition right now, because it's not a super long race, but it's essential that they do, because in the last lap, their reserves are going to be depleted quite a bit. And they're essentially making an investment right now and making sure that those reserves are filled up, that they're getting the proper hydration, and they're not going to suffer any cramps or empty muscles with no glycogen stores.
It's always one of the crazy things sometimes in a race that you have to remind yourself to eat and drink. You get thinking about other things, tactics, the race itself, and like you said, if you're not necessarily feeling it in your body, you might forget about it. So you got to remind yourself, hey, I still need to do it. It's part of the process. And make sure you stick to it.
Yeah, you might not feel like it too, you know. You might not feel like having to hold your breath a little bit just to swallow the water. It may seem like not that big of a deal, but when you've been going hard, it's not something that you feel like doing. So teammates can help you. Some riders set like little alarms on their cycling computers, and they're also probably hearing from their directors in their ears that they should remember to eat and drink, especially during these more calm moments of the race course.
How many bottles are they going through on a day like today?
I would say that they're probably going through maybe a bottle and a half every single hour. And in that, they have electrolytes. Over the past few years, nutrition in cycling has actually evolved quite a bit. So riders are taking in much more carbohydrate than they used to. The mission used to be essentially to eat as little as possible, stay super lean. Riders were riding on fumes, but the mentality has changed. It makes a lot more sense now. Riders are putting out a lot more power, and they're consuming a lot more calories and carbohydrates, which is really great to see.
What's the go-to now in terms of what they're eating on the bike on a race like this?
Typically, a race will have a pretty dialed nutrition, or a race team, I should say, will have a pretty dialed nutrition sponsor and plan. The bigger teams have their race nutritionists as well, so they're using the sponsors' foods, and sometimes they're using stuff that their nutritionist is recommending that they have, like things as simple as rice cakes even. Especially for the longer races, they're turning towards slightly more savory foods, salty a little bit.
Wait a minute, rice cakes are not a savory food?
Some of them are, yeah. I love this steam that you see coming up from places out on the streets in Baltimore. It's cool.
Very classic inner city feel, right?
Yeah, it looks like a movie scene or something.
It does, very cinematic.
So the peloton's pretty chill right now. Nobody's really putting on much pressure.
So basically you're saying, Lex, that they're not eating the Entenmann's, right? So it's not going to be the Twinkies and the chocolate aisles that are going to do the trick.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah. Now that's a cool shot.
That's a really cool shot.
You got the historic government buildings, the steam, and then the peloton here through central Baltimore, coming towards the end of this third lap. And again, they're going to have some technical corners to deal with here. And then the straight, flat run in to the finish.
Yeah, I was talking with Kenna Pfeiffer, who's actually a local, so she's from around here, but she doesn't typically ride her bike in downtown Baltimore because of all of the traffic and stuff. So it's a really special thing for a city this big to be shut down to traffic and for a bike race to happen, and for her to be able to ride on her hometown roads right down here.
Yeah, this road right here, as a matter of fact, is typically bumper to bumper. If you were here yesterday afternoon, it's full with cars almost throughout the day, a very busy thoroughfare. So they didn't shut this down until earlier this morning, where they put up the barricades and closed it to traffic.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal for a city to do something like that, and again, it just speaks to the value that they understand that holding an event of this caliber has for the city, for the sport, for the nation. It's special.
So we have a rider from Fount here on the right-hand side of the screen in the green, launching the move for, I guess, the sprint points at this stage. EF in the pink trying to cover. Intermediate sprint number 2. 4 points for the first across the line, 2 points for second, 1 point for third.
That's Andrea Sear. She is the doctor, and she has she's won and led criterium classifications. She is an excellent sprinter. She's a brilliant individual and a brilliant excellent rider as well, so I'm glad to see her scooping up some points.
The doctor is in the house here in Baltimore and winning the second intermediate sprint, which takes us on to the final lap here in the first ever women's edition at the Maryland Cycling Classic. 3 laps down, 1 to go, just inside of 18 miles to the finish. And now, Lex, let's see what happens. It's the final lap, usually a benchmark for some attacks. They're also going to hit that stretch of cobbles, about 500 meters of cobblestones coming up shortly.
Yeah, let's see what happens here. Look, the peloton's already strung out. People are attacking up close to the front. Everybody's following wheels. This is where things start to get dangerous. If something goes off the front, it might be tough to bring it back. But there's only 1 lap left to go.
We've already seen 3 crashes. Those happened on the first lap, interestingly enough. It's been clean racing since then.
Yeah, sometimes that happens towards the beginning of the race when people are nervous, but the nerves are probably all ironed out now, and hopefully we don't see any more crashes.
So no attacks as of yet here, and now we are going to get a move.
We've got
First big attack on this last lap.
EF rider off the front, and this might be a strategy. They might be launching rider after rider. Could this be Allison Jackson in the Canadian National Champion jersey?
It is. Allison Jackson, multi-time Canadian National Champion.
Now, she's an excellent sprinter, but she's also not scared to show her colors during the race and try to establish and create breaks. She's not the type of sprinter that just needs to sit at the back for the entire race and save energy. She has a very audacious riding style, and quite often it pays off for her.
And here are the cobbles. Very uneven. Over a century ago, laid here in the center of Baltimore. So this isn't the smooth pave you see as part of the stylish new design on roads here today. These are over 100 years old, very uneven, dirty, dusty, and very tricky when you're riding your bike.
Not for Allison Jackson, though, because she is the winner of Paris-Roubaix. She won that, and that's a classic that's known for its cobbles. So it's the type of road surface that she likes. For everybody else, yep, it's tough. Look at how far it's strung out. There's a little bit of a split here. Let's see what happens. Can the other riders in this selection close that gap?
And a single file right behind him. A group of about 9 at the front, but that single file line is slowly closing it down. And this is probably the highest speed we've had at any point in this race, and that's why it's single file, tip to tail here, front to back.
Looks like they're letting up a little bit because they see that the gap isn't solidifying. Sometimes that's a hard call to make. Do you keep on the gas and do you let the other people continue to suffer in the back and hope that eventually the gap gets created? Or do you hold up because it's just not working and it's an effort that's done in vain?
Now they pulled the pin here. It looks like the pace has backed off. Things regrouping here as we begin the final lap here at the Maryland Cycling Classic. Final 16 miles for the women, coming off the cobbles and now heading north. And again, this is slightly uphill for a while until they hit the Queen of the Mountains climb for the final time today. One rider off the back just coming through that finish area now. There have been several riders who have been dropped since this race started. These are the riders you don't often see, but the ones that suffer from the pace at the front. This is where the race will finish in just a little while. Should be about a 3-hour event altogether. We started at 8:30 a.m. local time earlier this morning, and now back to the front. And everyone looking around because it is the final lap. These are the key moments where race-winning moves can be made. The race can be lost if you're not attentive.
So if the women are a little bit too far off the back, then the last time that they go through the finish line on the 3rd lap, they get pulled from the field. So their day is over. So here she's getting pulled. This is how they do it. She'll just go off to the side. So sometimes that's a tough moment, but other times, you know, when you've done your job, then that's when your day ends, and then you're just hoping for the best that your teammates can carry through the work that you've done and get the win at the very end. So we see the other riders that got pulled here at the side.
So a shorter day, an abbreviated race for these riders, and now they'll turn into spectators and watch the rest of the way on this final lap here with the field together on the final lap, and 15.5 miles remaining here in Baltimore.
So the remaining group is pretty spread out across the road. After we cleared that cobble section, they were strung out, but now the pace has let up quite a bit. So teams here right now that are very confident in their sprinters will not be disappointed with a group this size. But then the other ones who know that they don't necessarily have a sprinter who's up to par to battle it out in the final sprint will probably be looking for either a breakaway to be created by somebody else that they can jump on a wheel and follow through to be a part of, or they might be trying to establish one. Let's see what plays out in these next miles and kilometers.
Nervy point of the race, isn't it? Because you know that anything that happens could be the signature moment of the day. So you don't want to be caught off guard. You want to be ready.
It is nervy, and you want something to happen, but you don't want to waste any energy that you're going to need later when somebody else makes something else happen. It's kind of like a game of chess. You see the paddle bike rider raising her water bottle in the air. That means that she's calling back the team car. She wants her team car to come up to the front of the caravan so that she can drop back and maybe get some nutrition or water bottles, or if she has an issue with her race radio, to be able to talk to the team director. Other riders are shedding their bottles, getting rid of them, throwing them off to the side so that fans can collect them.
All right, well, as we get into the final 15 miles of the race, let's quickly take a look at U.S. women's cycling Olympic results and just how good they have been, going all the way back to 1984 in Los Angeles. And, of course, you have Connie Carpenter-Finney, who won the gold medal in the road race back in '84. Kristen Armstrong, a three-time gold medalist in the individual time trial, a terrific rider for so many years. Rebecca Twigg won the silver back in L.A. And then more recently, Jennifer Valente, Chloe Dygert, and Sarah Hammer.
Yeah, USA has actually generated 30% more Olympic medals in women's cycling than in men's cycling. But, you know, we haven't really seen as much women's cycling as men's cycling over the last 30 years. This is changing, especially in the past 5 years. Finally, we're seeing more and more of the women's cycling and letting them shine.
And the U.S. will, of course, host the next Summer Olympic Games in 2028 in Los Angeles. The goal for U.S. cycling is 10 medals for that event. And they have quite a group that can certainly achieve it, including Hannah Roberts, who won in Paris. And how about Kristen Faulkner, really the queen at the moment, coming off that historic gold medal in the women's road race when she surprised a lot of people in Paris last summer. 17 women's cycling medals since 1984 across multiple disciplines. It's only getting deeper. It's only getting better. And they could set a new historic standard on home roads in Los Angeles coming up in 3 years' time.
And you know what? It's getting more and more common for riders to do multi-discipline. So riding on the track, riding on the road, just like Kristen Faulkner got a gold medal on the road and on the track. This could be something that could happen in the next games coming up in Los Angeles.
All right, 4 riders have made the move off the front of the field here. A 4-rider group ahead of the peloton.
Ooh, this is a dangerous mix. It's a perfect mix. We have representation from all the top teams. Right now, we have the former U.S. national champion. We have the current Canadian national champion. We have Sarah Tizet, and then we also have representation from Canyon SRAM. So back in the peloton, these teammates probably aren't going to be chasing too hard unless they're scared that maybe the sprinter in this group, which is probably Allison Jackson, won't give them a chance to win. let's see what they do. But this is a solid little breakaway.
Well, you have Emma Langley, who was in a break earlier today by herself, but Allison Jackson, number 52, the Canadian.
Yeah, she's known as a pretty dangerous threat when it comes to sprinting, and I would say that out of this group of 4, she has the highest chances of being able to win a sprint. We're still seeing her on the front, putting out a lot of energy, but she's conserved it very well throughout the day, and her teammate being off the front, Henrietta, for so much time during this race has allowed her just to sit in the pack, nice, calm, and chill, and save her energy.
So Allison Jackson riding for the EF Education Oatley team. Again, they're wearing pink jerseys, but she's in a special jersey as the national champion for Canada, where she's a multi-time national champion. She's at the front of this group right now. And this group before, some heavy hitters, marquee names, and you wonder, could this be a race-deciding move? Don't know what the gap is back to the field right now, but when you have strong riders like this, if they get a margin of any kind on the final lap of a race, it could be deadly.
Looks like Emma Langley is just kind of dangling off the back there. She must be suffering, and Steve, like you said, she was in a solo break earlier on in this race, and whether you like it or not, that costs a lot of energy. So Allison Jackson is trying to get the other riders to cooperate, but they know that she is a very strong sprinter, and they're probably not allowed to cooperate with her because they don't want to help her get to the finish line. They essentially want to be dragged to the finish line, get her to spend as much energy as possible, and maybe then they'll have the best chance at out sprinting her. And if not, then their teammates back in the bunch will have a better chance at racing against Allison Jackson in the final sprint.
Yeah, these are where the tactics really become crystallized, and you have different riders, different teams, different ambitions, and that's what can kill a breakaway when you don't have the right mix late in a race. And sometimes riders will have to do more work than they want, others will sit in, and sometimes it can be very frustrating for certain riders who feel very strong, but they know they don't have the support that they need, and if they go too hard too soon, they're not going to have it in their legs at the end. So this is where we are. Final lap, 4 leaders coming down to the heart of the race here at the Maryland Cycling Classic. The Maryland Cycling Classic is presented by Kelly Benefits, proud sponsor of the Start and King and Queen of the Mountains jersey competition. Athlos, proud partner and the official merchandise and apparel supplier with offices here in Baltimore. And by H&S Bakery. We are America's largest family-owned and operated variety baker and distributor for 4 generations and counting.
For inviting you to explore here, there, and everywhere. For giving your sense of adventure the attention it deserves. You're welcome.
And you're welcome to come see all that Maryland has to offer. This is Governor Wes Moore inviting you to come explore and experience Maryland's byways.
In Baltimore, we play. In this city, we lead with heart. We back it up with passion and plenty of hustle. We rep purple and black and orange and every color of the rainbow. Here, we play our way, which means everyone is free to jump in. Because game time is just a state of mind. And you got next. But you won't get it till you get here.
The 54th Annual Waterfowl Festival, November 14th through 16th in Easton, Maryland. 3 days of activities for all ages along the Quackin' Trail with crafts, goose calling clinics, and more. VIP packages and tickets at waterfowlfestival.org.
The 988 helpline provides immediate emotional support to people across Central Maryland. The helpline is free, confidential, and calls and texts are answered 24/7. Learn more at 988helpline.org.
The work and life of Thurgood Marshall literally changed this country.
Legally speaking, he's one of the founding fathers.
Whatever was going on, people said, don't worry, Thurgood's coming.
Thurgood's coming. Thurgood is coming.
He understood how to use the power of his voice.
He's the only Supreme Court justice who was more famous for what he did before rising to justice.
Inside of the final dozen miles here in the inaugural Women's Maryland Cycling Classic. We have 5 strong riders at the front. 5 seconds to a chase rider, only 10 seconds back to a reduced main field, which you're looking down at right now. So they have whittled away some riders from when we started the race with almost 100 in the field. And now down to a select few at the front, and also just a handful in the field that is chasing from behind. And so when you have a reduced main field that's pursuing a smaller group up the road, it can give an advantage to that smaller group that we have here. These 5 riders, because they're all very good, they're very strong, and they don't have a big organized chase coming from behind.
And it almost looked like that field was not going super fast. They were kind of spread out across the road. So let's see what they do to react and if they're going to work together to bring this break back. We see the 2 EF Education Oatly teammates speaking with each other. Allison Jackson's probably telling Clara, a younger rider, what her plans are, what her wishes are. They're going to work together to try to save energy and probably set Allison Jackson up for a sprint. They're not going to have a ton of cooperation from all the other riders. They're not going to go 100% full in because they know that they might not have as good of a chance in the final sprint.
Well, this is developing into a very good day for the EF Education Oatly team. Again, the team of number 53 in the pink there, as well as Allison Jackson, who's in the Canadian National Champion jersey, and Clara Edmond is that rider, also from Canada for EF Education Oatly. She's in the pink. She's at the front. So you have EF Education Oatly with 2 riders in the very front. You also have Henrietta Christie, who is back with the field now. She has already won the Queen of the Mountain presented by Kelly Benefit strategy competition by virtue of her climbing on the key climb earlier today. So EF Education Oatly has won the Queen of the Mountains jersey presented by Kelly Benefits. They could also wind up winning the race because they have 2 riders in the key move here late at the front of the event. And 2 of their best with Edmond and Jackson. The only team in this breakaway at the front with multiple riders. So for this squad, EF Education Oatly, things really looking good.
You know, Steve, earlier we were talking about how talented the women's field is just off of the bike as well. And a fun fact about Clara Edmond is that she is actually a lawyer, believe it or not. So she's a lawyer and a professional cyclist at the top level.
And we've seen a doctor win an intermediate sprint. We have a lawyer in the breakaway.
Something else. Pretty cool, huh?
Can we get a dentist on the next climb, perhaps? Hey, by the way, Baltimore, the city of the first ever dental college. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised with all this history that I'm learning Baltimore has.
Yep. Also the first ever U.S. Post Office.
And now
right here in Baltimore.
And this is the first ever U.S. race.
Oh, my God.
Where there's an African team, which is really cool, too.
Mind blown. And speaking of that African team, the Benin team, the Kaiser Permanente in the community jersey, honor those influencing people in Baltimore, goes to the Benin national team, the first African team here at this race coming from West Africa. All right, so now look at this. 1.5 minutes to these 5 riders. This could be it. This could be the move that decides this race. It could come down to these 5 at this point with that kind of gap. And considering the fact that it's such a small main field, no organized chase, this could be the move of the day.
Steve, it's not over till it's over, so I can't make this comment and have it published in some scientific, like, peer-reviewed journal or something. But I'm gonna say it. This race is over for the chase group. They're not chasing. They're not working together. The winner of this race is going to come from this 5-rider breakaway. It's just a matter of time until we learn who it's going to be.
And the math works in favor of EF Education Oatly, the only team in this move that has multiple riders.
You're right. They have raced an exceptional race today. Like, while Henrietta was off of the front, all of the riders were able to sit in the pack. They weren't too stressed out. The other teams were having to spend energy to reel her back in, which they did. We saw a lot of suffer faces and pain faces. And now they have 2 riders in the breakaway, and they have tanks that are fuller than some of their compatriots there.
They could get the Queen of the Mountains jersey. They could get the sprint jersey and win the race. Make it a clean sweep here today in Baltimore.
Wouldn't that be wild?
So the question then becomes here on this final lap, how will they use their numerical advantage? And how will the others that don't benefit from that, how will they counter?
Well, it's probably going to be up to Clara Imon to follow any attacks from these other riders. And for these any of these riders other than Allison Jackson to have a good chance at winning the final sprint, they're probably going to have to take a flyer. So what they're probably going to do is essentially kind of team up against her and take flyers that EF Education First will have to respond to time after time. So these other three riders are probably going to try to work together somewhat, even though they're not teammates, to whittle down the energy that EF has to put into that final sprint. That's their best chance.
Going through the Hampton area of Baltimore, an eclectic neighborhood, a lot of blue-collar roots here that date all the way back to the early 1800s as a mill worker settlement, and now it's been transformed into one of Baltimore's most vibrant and really artsy neighborhoods.
Baltimore is such a cool city because it's made up of all of these very distinct neighborhoods with so much character, and people from Baltimore are really proud about this special element and aspect of the city. We're lucky to be able to experience it with a bike race.
And one of my favorite all-time shows, The Wire. I don't know if you watched it, but The Wire, one of the best written shows of all time, based in Baltimore. And Lex, it's all in the game, yo.
You know what, Steve? I don't watch a lot of TV.
That's okay.
More time on my bike.
I get it. I get it. Just trust me, it's all in the game.
Okay.
So the gap holding at 1:35 for our 5 leaders, and this is where they are headed towards the final significant climb where they have the Queen of the Mountains points. But again, that competition has already been won by Henrietta Christie of EF Education Oatly by virtue of the fact that she was the first up that climb the first 3 times earlier today. So she can't be caught. She's back in the field. Her day is done essentially as she's won that competition.
Yeah, in some races, prize money goes like 2, 3, 4 riders deep in the Queen of the Mountains competition, but here it's take it all or leave it. So there's nothing left to be gained on the Queen of the Mountains sprint line, so riders are pretty much just going to dismiss it. They don't really care about that line anymore.
Now, knowing that once they get to the top of that climb, it's basically downhill the rest of the way back to the finish. Does one of these riders use that as a launch point to try and win the race?
Well, the thing is when you're going downhill at high speeds, the effect of the draft is more important than at lower speeds on flatter terrain. So it's more difficult to stay away as a solo rider than if you're in a group, unless the descent is super technical and riders behind you are having to brake to navigate the descent in the group. But I think that it's pretty unlikely that a solo rider will get away on the downhill. They're probably going to wait till it flattens out just a little bit and maybe gets a little bit more technical. We'll have to wait and see what they do, though. It looks like a rider from Siniska is trying to make their way across to this breakaway. They have absolutely no representation, so this is pretty much their last shot at being in the mix for a win. It's going to be tough for her, Quinn, to make it all the way up to this break. There's still a pretty solid gap of 25 seconds, and that's going to be hard to close all alone, especially on the descent, because we're just talking about the fact that it's easier to go downhill fast in a group than it is solo. But she's giving it a shot, and that's what she has to do.
The question becomes, who's comfortable in this group if it comes down to a sprint, and who's going to need to attack from distance in order to get the win? The 2 EF Education Oatly riders at the very front here. And now inside the final 8 miles. Again, still slightly uphill, going to the final Queen of the Mountains climb here. And this is going to be the race defining move. The peloton is losing ground. That reduced main field now almost 2 minutes back.
You know, another rider that we really got to look out for is Agnieszka Skalanik. She is a very, very strong rider. Her team calls her a highly reliable and valuable teammate. Guess what? This year, she has had 14 top 10 finishes in a wide range of world races, and she's finished super high on 4 Women's World Tour races. And she's also the Polish national time trial champion. So she can put out a high amount of power for a really long time, but she also has a solid sprint. So she is probably one that can really be a good match for Allison Jackson. I wonder if she would take a flyer, because she does have that time trial strength and like diesel power, but if she's got a good sprint too, she doesn't necessarily have to take that risk. So let's see what happens here.
She's never been on a World Tour podium, but she's one of those riders that's kind of been knocking on the door. She's been close. She's shown the ability to compete with the best in the TT as well as in the sprints. And it probably comes down to what's her comfort level with going head-to-head with Allison Jackson in a sprint versus maybe trying to out-time trial her in the final few miles.
Yeah, this could be her day. Like, she's one of the team's unassuming and quiet achievers, and she usually flies under the radar. But, it's only been a matter of time before she secures a debut World Tour podium. And this isn't a World Tour race, it's a UCI 1.1, so it's very close to a World Tour race. And this could be her moment to shine, finally.
But the catch-22 becomes, all right, if I'm going to try and time trial to the win, if I'm going to attack, as one of the riders here now is losing contact, that is Yaxulka. Now that's interesting that she's now dropping off the back here.
Yeah, that's Marta Jaskoluska, and she just finished third in the time trial stage of the Tour of Poland. So she's also a really good time trialist, a strong rider. But you could tell, like, she's getting tired, and it's normal. We're towards the end of the race. This group up here has spent quite a bit of energy. So now it's whittling down to 4. And the numbers are playing even more in EF's favor now. Now they compose half of this breakaway.
And just to finish the thought, the calculation you have to make if you're a rider who can time trial or sprint is, if I go for the TT and attack from distance, I got to make it work, because then I might not have the energy for a sprint. So you got to decide in your mind, what's my best chance to win? Is it the sprint? Is it the TT? And then make your move accordingly.
You're right, and if somebody jumps on your wheel and comes along, then you have another element to consider too. Should you keep going and bring them to the line? Can you out-sprint that person that's jumped onto your wheel? But you can only get one chance to make the decision, because making that jump costs a lot of matches that you'll never get back, and you need those matches in the finish if you want to compete against the sprinters that we have here.
Now, the EF Education Oatly riders have been doing the bulk of the heavy lifting here, leading this group most of the way, taking turns. Are they wearing them down? Is it making a difference? Coming up to the top of that Queen of the Mountains point. And again, that competition presented by Kelly Benefits, the Queen of the Mountains jersey, decided earlier. Henrietta Christie getting the victory. She wins the Queen of the Mountains for the race. So nothing substantial to go for this time. The final time up the final climb. And now from here, it's going to be downhill for these riders pretty much the rest of the way to the finish.
Is that Clara trying to take a little flyer there and forcing the other riders to follow her? That's a good technique to shuffle the cards a little bit and give Allison Jackson a chance to move to the back. Otherwise, the other riders probably would have forced her to stay up at the front. Here she's got more of a draft, so if she can stay back here and just save her energy for the sprint, she's going to continue to be in a really good position.
When you have the numbers and the math works in your favor, you can kind of punch, counter punch. One person attacks, makes it hard on the others, then the teammate attacks shortly, and you just kind of wear on them. Battle of attrition, kind of work them over as much as you can. But now both of the EF Education Oatly riders sliding to the back here.
Yep, we have Emma Langley, former U.S. national champ, on the front. So she knows Allison quite well, actually. So they were teammates at some point. She knows who she's up against right here. We see Clara Mond doing a little bunny hop on her bike. She's probably checking out her tire pressure, just double checking that she doesn't have a flat. Sometimes, I mean, when you're putting out power like this, especially towards the end of the race, your legs can feel almost like wood, and it feels like you're riding on flat tires. So she's just double checking that it's in her mind and it's not an actual bike issue that she's experiencing. So Allison Jackson forced back on the front. Claire's going to help her out here. And we have Agnieszka from Canyon SRAM taking a little bit of hydration, making sure she's hydrated here. Now, all these riders we see only have one bottle on their bike. No reason to carry any extra water. We're almost at the end of the race, just under 6 miles to go.
So Canyon SRAM, EF Education Oatly, Aegis Cycling Foundation out of Texas. The teams represented in this decisive move of the day.
Saw Claire give a little flick of the elbow to get Agnieszka from Canyon SRAM to pull through. Tell that she wasn't in too much of a hurry to pull through. She's definitely being careful with how much energy she spends. When you're in a group like this, you never want to be the one who's putting out the most energy or effort. You want to try to force the other riders into spending some energy.
Now, Agnieszka Skalniak-Sojka does have experience racing here in the U.S. The Polish rider won a bronze medal at the Richmond World Championships way back in 2016 in the junior women's road race.
And she's been racing professionally for quite some time now, ever since 2017, so 8 years. And she's only 28 years old, so she's been an excellent cyclist for a very long time now. Oh, here goes Allison Jackson.
Making the attack up the right-hand side of the road, and the response comes from Sojka right behind her.
Yep, she wants to get right on Allison Jackson's wheel. Now, obviously, Claire, she's not going to help anything, or she's not going to do anything to help Emma Langley to catch back up. So look at this. Allison's back with 50% odds. Okay, maybe she's going to get a little bit more help. She's just testing the water here. That's the cool thing about the Allison Jackson style of riding. She's very audacious. Even though she can win a bunch sprint, look, she's still attacking, still mixing it up, still testing out the legs of the other people, and maybe trying to make them a little bit nervous too.
Well, it makes them nervous, but it also gives you the opportunity to get a yardstick on how they're feeling. I mean, if they respond right the way Sojka did there, you know, all right, they're on their game, they're ready to roll. However, if a gap opens, you realize that maybe they're hurt, and you can crank the screws a little bit more.
Yeah, I was speaking with Allison before the race, and I asked what her strategy would be today. And she said, you know what, it's mostly going to be to have fun. And that's how she tends to perform the best. That's how she saves her energy, and that's where her best results come from. And so kind of in a cat and mouse type of a game, she definitely enjoys being the cat, I think, too, swatting the mouse around a little bit when she can.
Now, Clara Eamon, number 53 in the pink for EF Education Only, she also went to the front. And again, this is where his teammates, Eamon and Jackson, can work together here to kind of put the hurt on the others.
Yeah, and I think what Clara was doing there, I think she was trying to put down an attack and force Canyon SRAM and Agnieszka to chase. But I can imagine that she doesn't have a ton left in the legs, so I don't know how effective that little attack was, but the intent was definitely there. So that's what she was doing, trying to force the others to work a little bit more to give her teammate Allison even more of an advantage and a better chance at winning at this final sprint.
Yeah, it's one thing to put in an attack as a tester, because you don't use a ton of energy that way, and it gives you the opportunity to sort of take a snapshot of your opposition and how they're feeling, but you don't want to use too much energy knowing that you're going to need it for later on.
Yep, such a fine balance. So here they come down this fast downhill, pretty tight turn. The pavement's quite rough too here.
And again, this is downhill all the way back to the finish. Now, the only other significant features of the course they're going to run into are those 90-degree corners. Two of them right around 2K to go. And then inside the final K, which is just about a half a mile or so from the finish itself, you have 3 90-degree corners. But they're wide. They're not that difficult. With only 4 riders, it won't be any issue whatsoever in terms of the technicality of the course, and then you have several hundred meters of just straight, flat road all the way to the finish from there.
And that's where the riders are going to need the pure power. So they're going to want to navigate the final corners of this this course quite well, so that they're not gapped out, so that they don't lose any advantage. But then it's going to become a question of just who can put the most power out. But let's see if somebody tries to take a flyer and get off the front before. Only 3.5 miles to go, so that line's coming quick.
So tell me what you think, Lex. I mean, in the numbers game, when you see where they are right now, with EF Education Oatly in a 4-rider break, when you have half of that group, you have 2 of the 4 riders. I mean, the perfect scenario right here is you get down close to the end, maybe even inside the final K. You have one rider go off the front to set up your sprinter to then follow that move after the others respond. And it seems like that's the option to play, right? I mean, that's the best tactic if you can draw it up, wouldn't it be?
Yep, that is the best tactic. And let me tell you, if they don't win with the ratio and numbers that they have, they're going to be pretty mad. But we have to watch out for Agnieszka Skalniak, because this is the rider that Canyon SRAM had in mind to set up for the win, and I think that this is exactly how they wanted this race to play out. I mean, maybe not with the ratio that EF has right now, but they wanted her to be in a final group towards the end and give her the chance to finally shine and get a first place finish.
And the key thing here is for those other riders that aren't part of EF Education Only. You know what tactics you're going to face, right? So when you see that first move being made, you're probably going to realize, all right, this isn't the decisive move. The teammates behind, they're going to jump. So how do you respond? How quickly do you respond? Because you don't want to let the rider get away, but then you also have to be careful of the second move of the teammate coming from behind. So you have to be careful with your response and when you make it.
Absolutely. So these riders are trying to use all of their spidey senses, if I could put it that way. They're trying to listen to the breathing, the gear shifts. They're trying to hear if anybody is going to jump, and they have to be on the wheel of anybody that tries to go off the front, so that they're there and they can have a free ride and they don't get gapped off, because anytime that you're chasing, you got to spend a lot of energy. So you only get one chance here, and you have to stay super alert.
And when you respond maybe to that initial move, I guess you have to be prepared to take that all the way to the finish, because at that point you almost have to commit, knowing the teammate's going to come from behind. So you almost have to get on the pedals and just hope you can sustain your power all the way to the end.
Yep. And if you're following a move by EF, if one of these other riders follows EF, they're just going to sit on that wheel. They're going to listen for anything that's coming up from behind them that they might have to accelerate into and jump onto, but they're not going to help or put in any extra effort to bring EF to the line. That's up to them.
Now you see the gaps holding steady for the 2 riders between the field and these 4 at just about half a minute. They really don't have to worry about those riders because they're going backwards and not really forwards. These 4 pretty much understand the race is going to come down between the 4 of them. And now it's just tactics among these 4 to finish it off. And now here we come back into the center of Baltimore. 3 miles left to go. A couple of 90-degree corners. And then we are into the sprint finish for this first ever edition of the women's event at the Maryland Cycling Classic.
Oh, yeah. It's going to get real spicy here soon. So the riders are still maintaining a good pace here, but they're not going full gas just yet. Everybody's trying to stay very alert and attentive. Claire on the front, she's protecting her teammate Allison, but she's also trying to stay very aware of any moves that the Canyon SRAM rider Agnieszka Skalniak might be making, or even Clara Iman.
Emma Langley also again there, number 82 in that white jersey, third wheel. And now here Iman goes, lifting the pace with Jackson right behind her.
So you see Allison Jackson's not following her teammate. She's letting that gap open, and she's forcing the other riders to follow.
Perfect team execution here, because if they don't follow, Eamon could potentially ride off with the win, and the team gets the victory. Allison Jackson saves energy by not chasing. She'll take the draft, and if they pull her up to her, she's fresher if it comes down to a sprint finish.
Exactly. So they just forced Agnieszka to blow another match.
And there goes Jackson now. She makes the move up the right-hand side of the road with 2 miles left.
Yeah, and she's a little fresher than Agnesia because she just followed her teammate Clara. So Allison's putting in a really tough effort here.
Skalniak-Soika right behind her, and then Langley, and there's Eamon at the back.
Yeah, she's got to work real hard to jump back on here. It's tough, like when it's such a small group and you put in a solid attack like that, especially when you're running on a tank that's getting closer and closer to empty towards the end of a race like this. But she's going to try to make it back here so that she can be helpful and useful to her teammate Allison. So Allison's let off the gas a little bit here.
Coming into these corners that we talked about here in the final few K. Some 90-degree tight corners, but again, wide roads, nothing too difficult or technical. The only thing you kind of have to watch out for is some imperfect pavement along the road, some cracks in the concrete, a little traffic furniture, but pretty wide roads to deal with here. And now Skalniak-Soika is going to watch Langley go up the road, and now it's going to be up to Eamon to chase her. So that's Emma Langley there in the white jersey at the very front. Eamon for EF Education Only right behind. Then her teammate Allison Jackson behind her. And then Skalniak-Soika, the fourth and final rider in this group. And now Eamon going again there, making the move on the right-hand side of the group.
Yeah, she just put in a counterattack just after she was the one that brought Emma back. So good for her for doing that. Excellent work as a teammate. So Allison Jackson saw that Agnesia was about to follow, jumped right back onto her wheel. Looks like Emma's suffering a little bit. She's not hopping back onto the wheels as quickly as she would if she was super fresh. So I don't know how good she's feeling for the final sprint, but she's definitely not going to give up. It's not over till it's over, and she's still riding very, very strong. But I can sense that she's getting a little fatigued here.
Headed back into the inner harbor here. Final moments of this women's race. Less than a mile left to go. They'll be coming up on the final corner here shortly, and then straight, flat, and wide all the way to the finish for the final several hundred meters.
1 kilometer to go. You see the signs there.
All right, now 3 corners left here coming in quick succession. You have Eamon at the front, Skalniak-Soika second, Jackson third, and Langley fourth.
So I think it's going to be a battle between Agnesia and Allison Jackson.
They seem to be the 2 strongest riders from this group right now.
Yep. So
a 4 women's battle for the first ever Maryland Cycling Classic.
This is the finishing straight, and this is kind of like a game of cat and mouse because they're not going full gas. So now Allison Jackson just has to decide when she's going to jump, and so does Agnesia.
All right, we are coming down to the finish of the inaugural Maryland Cycling Classic for the women. 4 riders in contention for this prestigious first victory. You have Eamon of EF Education Only at the front. And then right behind her, Agnesia Skalniak-Soika. Then Allison Jackson, the teammate of Eamon, in third position. It's Skalniak-Soika who makes the first move. Jackson responds. She's on her wheel. The straight, flat, wide run into the finish. They are side by side at the line.
Steve, who got that?
A photo finish there at the end. Skalniak-Soika and Allison Jackson were almost pedal for pedal, stroke for stroke there at the finish. From the overhead, hard to tell who got it.
Oh my goodness. We have to wait for the photo finish. That was so close.
Agnesia Skalniak-Soika and Allison Jackson. What a race, what a finish.
We have Marta Jaskaluska coming across the line from Sarah Tizet. Great ride by her. Wow.
Still waiting for official confirmation as to who got the victory. What a way to end this inaugural women's race.
Here's Allison Jackson with Brian Blackhodge, one of the photographers that's been around in cycling for many years.
Look at this. Allison Jackson is looking at the photographer here, maybe trying to get the pictures to see who won, if she won.
Yeah, she's not even sure. Wow, this is amazing. Hey, could this even be a tie? Who knows?
She is having to check with a photographer here. He's looking back over the pictures. A photo finish in this women's event.
She's not sure here. We're all sitting on the edge of our seat.
So it is Agnieszka Skalniak-Sojka.
No way. Wow.
Who gets the win. She upsets the multi-time Canadian national champion, Allison Jackson.
What a day for Canyon SRAM, and what a day for Agnieszka, too. Again, this is the rider who is such a valuable teammate, so she doesn't necessarily always get a chance to go for the win and shine on the top steps of the podium, but here she is. She won the first ever Women's Maryland Cycling Classic race. Good for her.
Against the very powerful EF Education Oatly squad that had two riders in that key move. Skalniak-Sojka was by herself, without a teammate, yet the 28-year-old Polish national time trial champion gets the biggest win of her professional career.
And look at this sprint. She was leading that sprint the whole way down the stretch there once she launched it, and Allison Jackson was trying to come up and just pass her before the finish line, but she just needed a few extra meters and she didn't have it. Agnieszka's sprint was too powerful and it was perfectly timed. So despite the odds, despite the ratio that EF Education Oatly had, Canyon SRAM takes the victory of the first ever Women's Maryland Cycling Classic. Look at the power.
Ooh, the back wheel of Jackson kind of popped out a little bit there right at the end.
Oh.
Kind of wiggled.
Yep, it sure did.
I don't know if that could have been the difference. I mean, as close as that was, who knows? Watch again. Allison Jackson on the right-hand side of the screen. Watch that back wheel.
Oh, yeah, shoot. I wonder how that happened. That must have felt real sketchy. I don't know if she was just reefing on the pedals a little bit too hard, and that's what made the tires or the wheels slip out from under her. I can't really tell. Maybe there was an oily patch on the road there. It's tough to tell.
It could have been one of those where she needed maybe another 10 yards, right? And maybe she gets the victory.
But here we go. The Canyon SRAM rider, Agnieszka from Poland, she is the champion here. Pretty special day for her. And what a way to finish off the 2025 season. She might have a few more races left, but we're definitely at the tail end. So she's got another top result to add to her 14 top 10 finishes of the season. And here's a top 1. She's got the win.
And let's go to Rasan Bahati with the winner.
Agnieszka, I just watched you have a very emotional connection with someone in the audience here. You just made history. Not only did you win a bike race, you made history. How does that feel?
Yeah, I'm so happy that finally I got this first spot in the season. Worked so hard. There was a lot of up and downs this season, but I'm proud. We ride super good as a team. We back up each other. I had flat tire one of the lap, and the team waited for me, so I'm really grateful. And yeah, America is for me like a memory, always good, because I was in Richmond as a junior on the Worlds with third place, so always I'm happy to come to America.
So Richmond World Championships made the podium, and now the inaugural women's race here at the Maryland Cycling Classic. What was the hype behind it? Did it live up to the hype? How was it out there on the course?
Yeah, it was really fast course. With some cobble sections. With so many attacks, and in the end, we went with two girls from EF, and they were attacking me all the time, so it was quite hard. But in the end, I'm so proud and happy that I could make and win this race.
And speaking of winning, in the team meetings, were they racing for you? I mean, you're one of the top teams in the world, so there's a lot of pressure. A lot of the other teams are focusing on Canyon SRAM. Was the team tactic to get you to the line first?
Yeah, I mean, we have a few options with the girls, like breakaway, but we knew that if it's gonna be like bench sprint, they will go for me. So in the end was breakaway, and I was there, so yeah, I went for this.
This has to be a huge confidence boost. I mean, Allison Jackson, she's won the Monument, Paris-Roubaix. You go toe-to-toe with her to the line and come back victorious. Just one last thing for the audience that's watching. Tell us how you're feeling in this moment.
Yeah, I'm super proud, and I mean, I deserve this, and I'm happy that, almost in the end of the season, I get this first place.
Awesome. This is our winner, the inaugural 2025 Maryland Cycling Classic from Canyon SRAM. What a day, what a race. And we'll send it back to you guys.
Well, they call her Aga, and she'll also be known as winner here in Baltimore as she beats out Allison Jackson and also Emma Langley, who complete the podium today. Poland, Canada, and the U.S. represented in the top three in this Maryland Cycling Classic. But EF Education only, which seemed to have the numerical advantage, and so many things have been going their way in this race, but they come up empty when it comes to the top step of the podium. They do win the Kelly Benefit Strategy Queen of the Mountains competition.
So cool to see all the emotion in Aga's voice. Like, you could tell how much winning the Maryland Cycling Classic means to her. She has had an up and down season. Even had challenges in the race with that flat tire. Her teammates really came through for her, and she came through for them with the win.
All right, so Aga gets the win here today, and we'll continue with more from here in Baltimore in the Maryland Cycling Classic. Beautiful Saturday in Baltimore at the Inner Harbor. The women completing their race. The men will take to the roads in just a little while. Full day of racing here at what will be the third edition for the men. This was the first for the women, and couldn't have asked for a better finish, as it was a photo finish at the end.
Right down to the millisecond. The top two finishers, Aga and Allison, at the exact same time. Pretty wild. What a beautiful place to have a bike race. What a neat way to showcase how awesome Baltimore is. This city has so many historical points to it that are exciting to discover and be able to witness on TV, and for the riders too, who are coming from all around the world. We had over 20 countries represented in the women's field today. Riders traveling all the way from Africa even to be here, and it's a pretty neat way to put Baltimore on the map of professional cycling.
Terrific weather for the women as well. Temperature right around 80 degrees for most of the race. Sunny skies. The men might encounter some rain later on this afternoon, but right now, so far, so good on this early September Saturday.
Yeah, pretty much perfect weather. There's a nice little breeze. Most of the course is actually sheltered from the wind, so that doesn't necessarily play into how the course is ridden or how the tactics play out. But the weather is definitely perfect for racing. Hopefully the guys don't get poured on by the rain later in this afternoon, but sometimes that can make the race even spicier, you know? Some people like that.
Now, Harbor Point Plaza will be the start of the men's race, and that is coming up in just a little while. In fact, less than an hour from now, as the women are just finishing up today in Baltimore. (12:30 p.m. a local time here on the East Coast. That'll be when the men take the starts here at Harbor Point Plaza. Not too far away from where it will finish, and where each of the 6 laps for the men will finish during the course of the race. The women raced this course 4 times. It'll be 6 laps for the men, 108 miles around the 18-mile circuit. So before we get to the men, Let's take you back through some of the highlights from the women's race, which was just completed. This was the start earlier at Harbor Point. Field of just under 100 riders taking the start.
Emily Newsom was one of the first riders to attack and start the action. She's riding with Fearless Femme. Ooh, the first crash of the day. There were a couple of those early on. That's what happens when the riders are a little nervous. First lap. End of lap 1 here, we see the group all together. Another crash, 2 riders go down, hit the deck. Then we have Henrietta off the front for EF Education first. She was in a breakaway, a solo breakaway for a good part of the race. Definitely flying the colors for her team, picking up the Queen of the Mountain title. Sarah Tizet as well, bridging up to join her. And they worked together for quite some time, right up until almost the penultimate lap. This is where they got caught by the field. Henrietta is scooping up the last Queen of the Mountains points that she needed to secure the jersey. So that's essentially the first win for EF, or the win for EF Education first within the race. Give them a little bit of confidence moving forward. Here that's the end of lap 3 here. And we see the breakaway. This is the day's break. The 4 riders that made it right to the finish in the battle for first place. And then the sprint.
This was the sprint for the win, and what a sprint it was. Allison Jackson on the left, and Agatha on the right.
So close. Even the riders weren't too sure who won that one. And look at how much this victory means to Aga from Canyon SRAM. Two Polish riders in the top 5. And 2 Canadian riders, and then Emma Langley from the United States of America. That's a solid top 5 in the results.
Canadians, the Americans, and the Polish riders all represented in the top 5 here today.
Natalie Quinn from the U.S., Holly Breck from the U.S., Mathilde Duhou from Canada, Janine Salcedo from Colombia, and Kenneth Pfeiffer from the U.S. national team, rounding out the top 10.
Natalie Quinn was a rider who tried to bridge across late on the final lap, just couldn't quite get there, was kind of caught in the no man's land between the field and the front of the race on the final lap. So the women ending their race and the men getting set for theirs as we're between competitions here. There is the Polish winner, biggest win of her professional career, and going through the media duties at the finish of the race.
It's pretty cool for them to have the win. This is the first time that the team has been back to America since the 2019 Tour of Colorado. And their plan was to race aggressively for nothing short of the win. And look, they came through with it. They got the win. They had actually said before the race that we needed to look out for Aga because she was going to be the designated leader for this race. And their plan and their strategy worked.
Didn't have to do a lot either. I mean, it was EF Education Oatly that kind of animated the race early. Canyon SRAM kind of worked at the front for a little while, but in terms of setting up Aga to get the victory, I mean, they didn't have to do a whole lot of pulling or work in order to get her there.
Yeah, and I think that's not even what they were planning. I think that they were planning to have to hold a little bit more responsibility in determining the break or establishing the break, and they didn't have to. They were able just to follow and to execute their plan with Aga, and it's so cool to see how much this win means to her. I think for the rest of her life, like, America's going to be a special place in her personal history books, especially after the 3rd place finish at the World Championships in Richmond, and now a victory here at the first ever Women's Maryland Cycling Classic race.
All right, so she will get ready for the podium presentation coming up shortly as she basks in her biggest win so far, coming today in Baltimore.
So here's the thing. We need her to be at
So we're between races right now, and you have a different start from where the finish is. So you'll be having the women's podium ceremony going on at one part of the course, and the men getting set for the start at another part of the course. Only a short walk between the two.
Yeah, the way the race organizers have set this day up, there's not a dull moment in the entire day. So we've got the women's podium and then the start of the men's race after a very exciting morning of the women's racing. So this is a really special day for the city of Baltimore. And here's a live shot of the city. Here's the cobble section. This is Fells Point. Actually, in Baltimore, they call the cobbles Belgian bricks. It's like a little Baltimore expression to describe the cobbles. I learned that from the guy that designed this course.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, his name's Mike. Thanks, Mike.
Well, this week, Kaiser Permanente and race organizers attended Baltimore schools to raise awareness of fitness. Let's take a look.
We are very, very proud to have the Maryland Cycling Classic here in the community program.
And we are supported by our good friends at Kaiser Permanente to bring bikes, to bring cycling, to bring healthy lifestyles and skill sets into the community. We can't thank them enough for their support.
A teacher had an intervention with me and my parents, and they introduced me to the sport of bikes.
So we want to make sure that we want to encourage everyone to exercise. With Kaiser Permanente is partnering, and we have donated bikes.
What a great opportunity for the kids to get bikes and to get exposed to high-level racing and this whole endeavor here in Baltimore. That was earlier this week. They gave out so many bikes, visited several schools. It has been a week-long project here. Of course, this race has been in the works over the last several months, getting it ready, and the men's race is up next after the women just finished a short time ago. This is Harbor Point East, and the race beginning in Harbor Point Plaza, and the men coming up with their race at 12:30 at local time here in Baltimore. Now this Maryland Cycling Classic showing a resilient side. First scheduled 5 years ago. It's been canceled multiple times, once because of COVID, last year because of the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, but it's come back each and every time. Now the best edition yet this year, strongest and deepest field, and if you followed cycling for any length of time, you will know that once a race falls off the calendar, it's very tough for it to come back for a litany of reasons. So to come back multiple times after cancellations and postponements, that shows just how committed the organizers and everyone that has a vested interest in this race has been towards making this happen here in 2025.
Yeah, and I think that's a sign that this race is here to stay. This might just become one of the classic or American races in the United States that everybody around the world looks forward to coming to. You know, the CEO of USA Cycling was talking about how he feels and he knows that all of these teams from all around the world always look forward to coming to USA to race, and the fact that this race is on the calendar is giving them the opportunity to do that, and it's also giving the opportunity for American riders to shine and really do their stuff and have the opportunity to race at this level on this side of what we call the pond, the Atlantic Ocean. We had about 20 different countries represented in the women's field, and we have quite a few countries represented in the men's field as well. And there are actually regulations in place that compel organizers to have a certain mix of international riders in the field. So there must be a certain number of UCI trade teams, and there must also be a certain number of countries represented, which is cool because it makes for an international event.
The Inner Harbor is glorious on this early September weekend as we are between races here at the Maryland Cycling Classic. The women finishing up, the men getting set to start. Baltimore the scene, and all around this Inner Harbor area. The start just a little ways away from the finish. But the finish is also the end of each of what will be 6 laps for the men's race. Terrific for the spectators. They can walk between the start and the finish very close. A lot of shops and restaurants. This is a look back to the end of the women's race that turned out to be a photo finish.
So these two riders, they weren't even sure who got the win there, and they had to look at cameras from the media photographers to figure it out on their own. Here we have Aga from Canyon's SRAM here lifting up her bike. She's super happy about this win. This is the team's first time back racing in North America since the 2019 Colorado Classic, and they made an awesome comeback here with the victory. And you know what? They planned to set Aga up for the win, and it's not every single race that your race goes to plan, but they made it happen. So this is pretty special, especially for her. She's a worker usually for her team, and so she finally has the opportunity to shine.
And the way she had to do it was not easy. She was outnumbered in terms of the opposition in a 4-rider group. EF Education Oatley had 2 riders. She was by herself without a teammate, so she knew that Emond and also Jackson were going to really work on her, and that they did. But she had the strength to follow the moves even when they were just testing her. She was right on the wheel. She looked very strong. She looked fresh and had the energy at the end. So they didn't wear her down the way sometimes you see teams with that mathematical advantage. That's what they will do, but she responded to every move, and in the end, she got the win when she was called into the sprint.
Yep. And you know, I was probably a great team effort too, because she did have a mechanical during the race. She had a flat, but she said that her team worked for her and helped her get back. And obviously she didn't have to spend too much energy or waste too much, because she still had it in her at the very end to go full blast at the sprint and outsprint the competition that she was outnumbered in. And she's taking home the victory.
All right. With the men about to take to the roads, let's remind you what this 18-mile course looks like. And to learn more about these roads around Baltimore and what the men will be navigating, we asked our competition directors to ride the course and comment on this urban setting from a pro rider's point of view.
Let's examine the first kilometre of the course. So from the start line here, in only 300 metres time, we start the cobbles. And the cobbles are 500 metres long, and they go through a really cute, vibrant part of the city. And we just haven't seen this before in US racing as much. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, Joanne. So when I first heard that the cobblestones were included in the Maryland Cycling Classic in 2025, I thought it would be more like a smoother brick surface. But let me tell you, after riding them today, they are the real deal. What do you think so far of the cobbles?
Yeah, there's definitely better lines than others, that's for sure. So the teams will be reconning this in the days prior, and they'll be figuring out, is the left side better, is the right side better, which way is the faster and smoother way.
Yeah, Patterson Park is also going to be the location of the Community Bike Jam this year, and it's one of those sections that may not look like much elevation gain, but after riding it today, I can tell you, after a couple laps of this course, that's going to sting the legs a little bit. So heading out of Little Italy, we start heading up towards the original George Washington Monument with another tiny section of cobbles around this beautiful beautiful roundabout, George Washington Monument is the high point of central Baltimore. We continue through Hamden and then on to the Northern Parkway, which is where we have the KOM this year. It's a big, wide road. You can see it from the bottom to the top. And let me tell you, there's going to be a lot of action on that KOM line.
So that's going to be a great place to watch the action. The climb is 900 meters long and it's over 8% in sections.
You go from these big wide roads up the climb and down this little descent, and before you know it, you'll be right back in downtown Baltimore. It's like you're seeing 2 or 3 different countries, not just parts of one little city.
So now we're back on Falls Road and it's slightly downhill all the way into the city, and we're going back into the inner harbor area.
That's right, Joanne. Coming down St. Paul, riders are going to hit between 40 and 55 miles an hour. It is going to be a screamer.
With less than a kilometer to go, we will turn left onto Pratt Street, and that is considered Baltimore's main street. It'll be just a really long drag all the way to the line.
So after the finish line, we turn right onto President Street and into the vibrant Harbor East area.
Yeah, it's really beautiful here. It's up and coming. There's the marina, there's restaurants, there's nightlife. There's just a lot happening down here, and we're just really, really happy to be like racing right through the heart of that.
But to see a circuit like this with the history that Baltimore has is really going to be something special that I think all these riders from Europe, who obviously have a lot more history, will really enjoy.
Really cool course. This is not the same course that the men rode on in the first 2 editions of this race. It is the same finish, but the old course used to go out north of here into Baltimore County, some of the rolling hills and the countryside, but the course this year is all within the city of Baltimore. It's an urban circuit, but you are not sacrificing climbing or corners. You still have a lot of the different features that make up a very compelling and competitive course. We have a King of the Mountains section, and we have some of the technical corners that you often find in city circuits. So you have a lot to test the riders, and we will see that on display coming up here in just a little while. The men's race now 35 minutes away. Now the women will have their podium presentation coming up, and the men will get set for the starts of their race on what has turned into a pretty warm day. Temperature right now climbing into the mid-80s. Mostly sunny skies. There is a threat of rain for the men later on this afternoon. The women had totally dry conditions, but the men may encounter some thunderstorms later on this afternoon. We will see. For the moment, warm and dry here in Baltimore. Cycling Classic is presented by Visit Baltimore, proud host of America's biggest professional bike race. Baltimore, you won't get it till you get here. Kaiser Permanente, official healthcare sponsor. We believe that good health begins with healthy communities. We're promoting healthy lifestyles to help Maryland thrive. And by the state of Maryland, from the sandy beaches of the Eastern Shore to the mountains of the West and everywhere in between. Maryland is home to spectacular natural beauty.
In Baltimore, we celebrate. Ours is a city of firsts. From past to present, we're the sum of our traditions. We live our stories, savoring the moment and the monumental. When it's time to get down, we're off to block after historic block. Here, every anthem is more than words. It's a point of pride, one we're eager to share. But you won't get it till you get here.
Parkinson's is more than a tremor. It touches every part of life, affecting movement, mood, cognition, and daily activities. At the Davis Phinney Foundation, we help people with Parkinson's by providing proven programs, resources, and ongoing support that improves quality of life. Our community shares experiences, celebrates victories, and faces challenges together. We offer practical tools that make a real difference. Visit dpf.org/Parkinson's. Follow us on social media and discover how to live well today.
We've been racing into your living room since 1981. Now it's time for Motor Week's 45th anniversary season. Slide behind the wheel of the here and now with our expert car buying and car care advice. Plus a fun look in the rear view mirror. Fuel your passion for the automotive world every week. Join me, John Davis, for Motor Week 45.
Today at 5:30 on MPT.
Solar Energy World is a Maryland-based solar company committed to helping homeowners achieve energy independence. To find out more about Solar Energy World, call or visit our website, www.solarenergyworld.com.
The 988 helpline provides immediate emotional support to people across Central Maryland. The helpline is free, confidential, and calls and texts are answered 24/7. Learn more at 988helpline.org.
The men getting the benefit of the later start, so they got to sleep in today, but the women completed their race in dry conditions. The men will have to contend with the heat and humidity, plus possible thunderstorms this afternoon. Now, the forecast is for the inclement weather to move in sometime between 2 and 8 p.m. The race itself should run between 12:30 and 4:30, about 4 hours for the total men's race, which is 108 miles. So kind of in the bullseye for when the nasty weather may hit. But we will see. Either way, the weather's going to be difficult because even if you don't get the precipitation, you have the heat and humidity that they have to deal with, and that's tough in and of itself.
Yep, on a long, tough course with hot weather like that, it makes things even more difficult. And the riders are really going to have to stay on top of their nutrition and hydration through a race like this. Otherwise, they're going to suffer from cramps and just an empty feeling in those legs. So if it does get pretty hot this afternoon for them, that's going to be an extra challenge that they're going to be forced to deal with. Here we have the EF Education First Easy Post team signing in.
Is in attendance here with us. So Connie, her husband is the Davis.
What a cool opportunity to see the top riders in the world racing here in the United States of America. Again, this is the most important single-day race in the United States, and there are a lot of riders coming from all over the world, and they're excited to be here. I actually overheard some riders last night in the race hotel in the elevator saying, "Man, I don't want to go back home on Sunday. Can't we just stay an extra week longer?" And that was pretty cool to hear.
Nielsen is one of the riders that...
Now the EF squad on the women's side was very prominent throughout the women's race. They won the Kelly Benefits Queen of the Mountains competition. They had 2 in the key breakaway late, finished second with Allison Jackson. And now the men will roll out here shortly, just like the women. It'll be 6 riders per team. The men will have 13 teams, 89 riders total in the field when they kick things off.
But, yeah, mostly hungry for the team to win. So, myself and Ryan, we're going to be on that one.
The cool thing about this race is that we're seeing riders come from all around the world who don't necessarily typically race together. So there are a lot of North American teams that the European teams aren't used to seeing, and they're not sure what to expect. So there might be some people that are flying under the radar on these North American teams that they're not as familiar with. So there's a lot of unknown, and that adds to the excitement of the race.
Well, as we get set for the men's race, we will shift from Lex to another special co-commentator. Lex, don't go anywhere just yet. Hang out for just a second.
Okay.
But let's welcome in here a Giro d'Italia stage winner, a 3-time national time trial champion, a world champion on the track, a guy who succeeded at the Tour of Dubai. Where in the world hasn't he had success? Well, now he gets a chance to come over to the dark side of cycling, the broadcasting world, for really the first time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Taylor Phinney here to the booth for the men's race. Hey, bud.
Hello, world. I'm happy to be here and been listening to you guys all morning. Great job. I've loved it.
We haven't jaded you too much. We haven't turned you away.
Nope. I'm still here. I'm ready to go, and I'm really happy because a good friend of mine won the race today, Agnieszka. She's a great friend of Kasia, my wife, and we spent quite a lot of time together.
What do you know? What do you know about her? What's your relationship with her, and what's the dynamic like?
Well, she's from southern Poland, just like my wife Kasia. They're from a similar region, Gorale, in the mountains down south. And yeah, we've just spent time at different training camps together, and she's a quiet but funny and very strong and fast rider. So when I saw her in that last group, I knew all she had to do was stay with those EF girls, not let them get away, and that she would have that sprint. I actually ran to her and told her that the announcers were saying that she won because she didn't know at the end of the race. So that was kind of a cool moment to have just back here with her and the rest of the team.
Well, we were talking before the end of the race when we were setting things up about how she had been kind of knocking on the door. She had been close to some big results and had put herself in some positions at World Tour races, but just never got a significant win. Now, obviously, this isn't a World Tour race, but still a significant victory nonetheless, as she once again put herself in the spot she needed to be late, and this time came through and closed the door.
Yeah, she has been second, third on the podium here, fourth around. She's always up there in the sprints, but she hasn't quite had that decisive victory. We saw her win the time trial in Poland, the national time trial in Poland, where Kasia got second, which was fun. But yeah, I'm really happy for her and also happy for the team because, you know, every team needs wins these days, and at a race as big as this one in Maryland, I think the team will have a good time tonight.
Well, let's now turn our attention towards the men's race, which is coming up shortly. It'll be about a 4-hour event. They're going to do 6 laps. The women did 4, 108 miles, hot, humid, maybe wet. What are you expecting from this third edition of the men's competition?
I think it's going to be a spicy race. I mean, as we saw from the women's race, they were talking about having a group sprint or something. At the end, you have 4 riders. On paper, it doesn't look like it's going to be the hardest race on the calendar, but each team that's come here is coming here with a really strong attacking team. They have options. The big World Tour teams are here with options. You have American riders like Quinn Simmons, Nielsen Paulus, who want it to be aggressive and fast, and I think we're going to see from the start the U.S. teams, the domestic teams, the smaller continental teams, and the pro teams, World Tour teams just going for it.
All right, well, as we make the transition from the women to the men, Taylor stepping in. Lex, you're done for the day. Perfect day at the office. Tremendous job. Glad to have you here. How'd you like it?
Thanks. It's been a real pleasure. It's been awesome hanging out over here, and it's been so cool to be on this side of the barriers and watching the women do their stuff. This is such an amazing race. I'm so glad that it's on the calendar, and I can't wait for it to continue many years down the road.
How about for a first ever edition of a race like this? Obviously, you've been to some big ones in Europe, here in the U.S., all over the world. How did this first inaugural event stack up?
Oh, it's been excellent. The field was super deep. It was great to see so much representation from countries all around the world. And the race course, we weren't sure about how the race was going to play out because it's never happened on a course like this before. And it's proven to be a really exciting race course, and I think that's part of the reason that this race is going to come back over and over again, and teams are going to seek out to put this race on their calendar.
What are you going to do the rest of the day?
I'm going to watch the men race.
Huh? Good answer. Good answer. Hey, bring us some lunch or something. We got like 4 hours to go.
I can do that. I can do that.
Make a Chipotle run or something. We'll see.
Sounds good.
Lex,
thanks, Steve.
Thanks for being here.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, Lex Albrecht, top Canadian rider for so many years, and we will make the switch to the men's event coming up shortly here, not just about 20 minutes away from the start, as the men will head to the Inner Harbor and then over to Harbor East as they get loose, get set. This is the Inner Harbor where the race will finish. The start just a short walk from here, and we'll continue with more in our coverage of the Maryland Cycling Classic right after this.
National anthem, as well as all of our We'll meet some of the top riders in our field.
The men will see this banner 6 different times in their upcoming race. 6 laps. This is where every lap ends. It'll also be the intermediate sprint point. The start just a short ways away from here, Harbor Point Plaza. So you get Harbor Point Plaza, the Inner Harbor, all of the key scenic landmark spots here in the center of Baltimore. So for the fans to come out, they can take it all in. And if you're watching somewhere else, we will take you to all of the key spots here. Steve Schlanger, Taylor Finney here on this Saturday afternoon. And the men, when you compare them to the women, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this race unfolds. Now, the women, a shorter race, not as many laps. We didn't really have a signature big breakaway that formed of multiple riders. We had solo riders going out front at different times. We only, in fact, had multiple riders in a move late on that final lap when it was the decisive group at 4 that came together and dropped the field and then decided the race amongst themselves. Will the men have a similar strategy, or will it play out in the same way? Always hard to tell. Probably not, just because there are so many strong and deep teams. There's a lot of different ways the men's race may go here. And in the first 2 editions, we've seen a small group come to the finish line together. We've seen a rider go solo at the very end. We could see a big group of over 30 come to the line together. You just never know with this brand new race course that the men are racing for the first time here this year in Baltimore. Well, as we continue here, the men are getting poised for the start of their race, and a field of 89 will take to the roads here in Baltimore. And let's, while we have a moment, send you over to Rasan Bahati, who is near the start line. Rasan.
I'm here with Uno X, Abrahamson, Jonas Abrahamson. And I just asked him one question before we went live is, have you ever raced in America? He said no. So I want to know what's your feeling of being in North America?
Yeah, I never raced there. So no, it's very nice here, especially outside the town there. It's amazing to ride, and yes, good condition for training and heat weather. So yes, perfect.
Not to put too much pressure on you, but you know, I'm from Southern California. We have a really good cycling culture there, and you are like a fan favorite. Have you felt that here at all?
No, I haven't think about that, but that's so funny. I have a lot of followers from the States, so yes, hopefully I can do it good today.
So you guys come from a long way, you know, from Norway, and how has it been here, and what are you expecting today's Maryland Cycling Classic?
Yes, it's very nice to be here, and it's a hard loop, and it can be a sprint, and it also can be a hard race with a smaller group, so it's a very open race. So looking forward to come out on the bike and the races here in the States. It's looking so forward to that.
Okay, thanks for your time, and good luck today.
Thank you so much.
Many of the riders gathering there and getting ready for the start. How about some individual names to look for as the favorites in your mind, Taylor? Who do you think?
Well, let's see. I'm looking at the Stars and Stripes. Quinn Simmons, the reigning winner on his team is Skjelmose. I think they've been training together, you know, in Colorado the last 3 weeks. They seem to be really tight. They have quite a bromance forming, and
a legit bromance on the bike.
They were clear about their bromance at the press conference.
Hey, man, that helps strategy, doesn't it?
It does. I think they got a real 1-2 attacking punch for Lidl Trek. So Lidl Trek will be looking for a return victory here. I can also see Education First, just like in the women's, being up there.
Well, let's take you through the start list here, and we'll go over everyone who could make a dent in this race today. 13 teams, 6 riders per team. We've got 89 riders in total for the men, set to line up shortly. And we will also speak with the winner of the inaugural men's race back in 2022, Sepp van Marken, who will join us here later on this afternoon. But the aforementioned start list, beginning with Tudor here. Larry Warbass of the U.S., always a popular name here on the home roads. And for the EF Education Easy Post squad, Nielsen Paulus, the only rider who's been on the podium in each of the men's races so far here in Baltimore.
Yep, second and third.
Colby Simmons could be a key support rider. Brother of Quinn, the national champion here.
You know, they have a young rider on this team, Alfredo Bueno, who's doing, I think, his second race with the team. He's from SoCal, and he's just been racing crits, and he's super excited to be joining the team. He had a win in West Bohemia Tour a couple weeks ago. Great celebration, a lot of energy with him. I think Marijn Vandenberg is also very fast, but Nielsen has definitely stated that he wants to be up there going for the win finally.
For Alfredo Bueno, all the other teams saying, come on, no bueno. No bueno. Well, the Abramson team, we just heard from him, the Norwegian, part of this largely Norwegian squad here.
Yeah, Jonas has been on a real tear. He won stage 11, I believe, of the Tour de France ahead of Mauro Schmidt. Tight finish, like the women's race, little photo finish. And he's won, I think, 2 races since then. He's only won 4 races as a professional, so he has 3 wins in the last month and a half on fire, as I guess you would say. So we can definitely look to him to also animate. He's trying to make the race hard. He's not an out-and-out sprinter, but he's a winner. He's got the target capabilities.
Israel Premier Tech with Simon Clark, the Aussie, who always has a fast finish. Riley Sheehan is the top American from this squad, and Pascal Ackermann is a guy who's had success at the highest levels of the sport from Germany.
Yeah, I actually used to train with Riley Sheehan when he's about 8 or some years younger than me, but he would come out with his dad, Clark Sheehan, at the ages of 12, 13, 14, and train with us with the likes of Christian Vandeveld. He's from Boulder. He's got great frosted tips, and he's also on a bit of a tear, been snagging podiums in Europe and doing really well this season. Simon Clark in his last year as a pro.
You buried the headline. The frosted tips should always go first. Come on, man.
Hey, it's my first time.
Yeah. There's a learning curve. There's a learning curve. Well, hey, speaking of the Aussies, how about Michael Matthews coming back from a pulmonary embolism, a health scare earlier this season, and now after missing the Tour de France, he's back here in Maryland.
Yeah, Michael Matthews having blood clots in his lungs over the summer, finding out at an altitude training camp, super scary for him. He's been he's just an incredible competitor. He's been on top of this sport for every year that he's been involved. He won, I think, Frankfurt earlier this year in May, suffered that setback, but now he's back. His first race back in Plouay, he was top 10, so he's definitely here with a strong team. Also cards to play with Mauro Schmidt.
Yeah, Matthews was off the bike for 4 months after that race in Germany. Just started up again in early August. Jeffrey Soup, an accomplished rider from this all-French team, one to watch for Team Total Energies.
Yeah, Geoffrey Soupé, he has an amazing beard. And Anthony Turgi, he won the Roubaix stage of the Tour de France, I believe, a couple years ago. He's a strong built rider, another big boy. I always respect the big boy on a bike.
But the beard, though, the bearded one on a hot and humid day, that's got to be tough.
Yeah, especially if it's raining, especially if it gets dirty, But hey, I'm sure he makes time for maintenance.
And then you mentioned Quinn Simmons already, and you also have last year's winner, or I should say the winner of the most recent edition of this race, which was 2 years ago, Matthias Skelmoza.
Yep, you got Skelmoza. He unveils a new nose strip designed by his 12-year-old sister at every race, so I wonder what we're going to see on his nose here. Other than that, like I said, that bromance is strong and only getting more tight, so I'm excited to see what they got going on.
I didn't know the nose strip business could be so involved and so impactful, but apparently it is. We'll watch out for that as this day unfolds. And what do you think about Team Solution Tech, Vinny Fantini?
Well, these guys are a staple. You know, they're coming all the way from Italy. The only non-Italian is Mark Stewart, and they're always up for animating the race. I know that well. I've raced against this team multiple times, so looking forward to what they have to offer.
Team Medellin EPM, and they feature Oscar Sevilla, who is now 110 years old and still racing.
Yes, 48 years old. He was a domestique for Jan Ulrich back with T-Mobile. He started racing before Tadej Pogačar was born.
That's crazy.
He's still there, but he won a stage of Tour of Ecuador this year, and he's still on top. He's still doing it.
Team Novo Nordisk.
Yeah, Novo Nordisk. We have a relatively young team. We got a couple old staples. I don't want to say old, but David Lozano and Andrea Perron have been on the team for quite a long time. This team, you know, they're racing with type 1 diabetes, bringing awareness to being able to treat that and still compete at the highest level is very inspiring.
And Team Skyline with several Americans dotting the roster here.
Yeah, Team Skyline is an American Continental team, one of only two remaining Continental teams here in the U.S., along with Project Echelon that are here in this race. They're just coming off of Volta Portugal, which was their biggest race yet, 11 stages across Portugal. They told me that they had some pretty interesting stories of having to Uber off of the top of mountains and such, but a young team, Irish and American, and they're stoked to be here.
So there's not a quicker way off the top of a mountain than to Uber? I mean, I think just waiting for the Uber would take too long.
You know, we didn't get into the details. I didn't even know they had Uber in rural Portugal.
Right.
But Project Echelon, if I can just mention, they use cycling to coach, mentor, and motivate over 600 veterans. So that's very cool. And we have Team USA with a young team and a standout coming over on loan from UAE, Brandon McNulty, fresh off of a Tour de Pologne overall stage win.
Yeah, one of the biggest, highest profile names in the race, Brandon McNulty, a guy with international chops, but back on the home roads here today for this third edition of the Maryland Cycling Classic, coming up shortly from here in Baltimore, Maryland. Inside of 10 minutes to the start, so the men starting to line up here at Harbor Point Plaza.
There's Michael Matthews right there. He's got his nickname is Bling. He used to wear a lot more flashy jewelry than he does now, but he still has a great shoe collection. He does live in Monaco, so you got to keep the standards high when you're cruising the streets.
Oh, the pressure's high too. I mean, the pressure is unrelenting when you're in Monaco.
It's hard to keep up, and that's why I don't live there.
He's not doing himself any favors. Your nickname's Bling. You live in Monaco. I mean, the standard just is unrelenting.
It's a high bar, but he's down to jump.
How do you like Michael Matthews for this course?
Well, he's a very fast rider. He's also a rider who has a keen race sense, and when it comes down to marking the right moves between him and Mauro Schmidt, I think they have two really strong cards to play later in the race. We'll see with what kind of attacks come at the beginning of the race and how big this breakaway ends up being and how it really unfolds. I can't see it being a group sprint necessarily, but if it were to come to that, Jaco Alula have Luke Durbridge, Hepburn ready to pace any group. and take any group back and make it a sprint.
Michael Matthews prepping for the World Championships, which he's been a part of since 2018, every single year for Australia, but the first in Africa, and he's getting ready for those in just a few weeks in Rwanda. This is the front row of the men's race, now just minutes away.
There's Luke Durbridge there with the Aussie National Champs kit. Nielsen Paulus next to him, America's darling.
All right, before the men kick things off, let's go to Rasan Bahati, who is with the American Brandon McNulty.
I'm here with U.S. owns Brandon McNulty. This is a household name here. We're used to seeing him on the World Tour level, racing in the high mountains. But he's here now at the Maryland Cycling Classic. First time, thought so far?
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. We don't get to race back in the U.S. very often, so yeah, it's really nice to be here for a hard race.
So yeah, you talk about the race being hard. We saw the women's race kind of blow up with one lap to go. What are your expectations of how this race will play out for the men's?
Yeah, I think it'll be similar. It'll be super aggressive. We have a pretty small field, and it's pretty hot out, so I think a lot of people will be suffering and then a lot of attacking. And I think it's a super open and hard race.
Yeah, not really known for your closing speed, but definitely a very smart racer. We're going to work on that. I know we've been talking about this. But it can come down to a select group of maybe 4 to 8 riders, and I think you do have a chance at something like that. Is that something that's planned through your head?
Yeah, I mean, for sure my ideal is to go solo, but yeah, I think out of a group of 3 or 4, I can at least stand my own. So if it's the right number, right for 3 or 4 guys at least.
No, absolutely. You're on another level, and we just appreciate you being here. We're looking forward to seeing you out there, so good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Back to you guys.
All right, Brandon McNulty looking to put on a show here on the home roads in the U.S. And it's got to be special, Taylor. You would know this. You spend so much time racing over in Europe and around the world. To come back for a prestigious race here in the U.S. has to be cool.
Yeah, anytime you get to don the USA kit, it's a special experience. He's racing with a bunch of young riders on the team. I know that can be kind of fun for him. He's a quiet, reserved kind of a guy. It's hard to get a full sense of what's going on in his head, but once he gets out there on a bike, he's a speed demon. And to win the Tour de Pologne a couple weeks ago, I mean, I know he's on one of the biggest teams in the world, but that's a dang hard race. So big props to him, and I think he's going to be active today for sure.
Well, his fellow American Nielsen Paulus also spoke with Rasan Bahati, and that was just moments ago.
I'm here with 2-time podium rider from EF, Nielsen Paulus. This is try number 3. I know you're feeling good. How's it going, and what's the plan today?
Yeah, plans to win. We've been on the podium twice here, so we want a pink jersey on the top step. We brought a sprinter with Moran Vandenberg and myself for an aggressive race, so yeah, we're ready for any scenario, and we're going to be chasing the win today.
Well, you're definitely one of the prize of U.S. You've been on the podium, like we said, twice. Some really big results over in Europe. It's got to be a pleasure being back in the States.
Oh, man, it's so nice. All year I'm jealous of the European riders. They get to race on home soil, but yeah, this race is my chance to give it back to them.
Well, good luck, Nielsen.
Thanks.
That's just what we were talking about. The opportunity for an American to race here at home, but also the prospect for EF coming with a variety of options. They have different scenarios by which they could win this race. Their tactics are pretty comprehensive, as they have one of the favorites and plenty of support to get them there.
Yeah, I think we're going to see them similar to in the women's race, how often they were attacking off the front. You know, they have a good sprinting option with Moran Vandenberg. Nielsen Paulus actually did a local criterium last week that he was telling me about in Houston. So every Wednesday, community gets together and hosts a criterium, and he had some fun out there. So he's happy to be back in the U.S., and it's just a different feeling racing in the U.S., especially when you get to race through downtown Baltimore, Maryland.